Welcome back. This week's episode, I'm very excited to be joined by Trent Warren, who is a former Division I walk-on track and field college athlete at the University of Oregon, where he received his Bachelor's of Science degree in journalism with a minor in business administration. Immediately after receiving his bachelor's degree, he began a specialized accelerated master's in business administration at Cal State University San Marcos, with a concentration in international business. He has professional experience as a content marketing coordinator, digital marketing strategist, and paid media specialist at Flow Sports, and his current company, Lifter Insights. At Flow Sports, he drove conversions and revenue with PPC advertising and increased brand awareness through social media outlets. This is going to be an awesome episode. Let's get started. Welcome to VidMark, a podcast to give you the video marketing knowledge to always hit the mark. Let us help build your confidence with video strategy and content creation best practices. Join us weekly for pro tips and guest interviews as we explore the powerful communication tool of video. It's time to boost your business. Let's talk video. All right, everybody, welcome back to the VidMark podcast. I'm excited to be joined by Trent Warren out of Austin, Texas. Trent, we go back a few years, back to the University of Oregon days, and we were just talking before this call, chasing each other around the quad back when you were doing your track days, and I was trying to, train up and be a better sprinter because I heard that HIIT training was better than, other types of running. But yeah, do you want to give us a little bit of your background? Thanks for coming on the show, Trent.
Hey, Brian, thanks for having me. I know this has been in the works for a long time now. Super happy to be on the show, by the way. But you said it right. We go back at U of O, both journalism students, both logging in those long hours in the J school in the lab. Again, I think we met like end of junior year too. So we've gotten really close over the years. But basically a little bit about me. I was a 4-year student at U of O in a journalism major, as I mentioned, got into marketing right after college. So I went to U of O, graduated in 2015, did grad school at a smaller school named Cal State San Marcos. I majored in international business. Then I moved on to Austin, Texas, where I found a job for a company called Flow Sports. They are a B2C company that, think ESPN, but at a smaller scale. They're really big into the whole niche sports and cord cutting. Really unique business. They pick up all the sports that ESPN doesn't pick up. So for them, I worked out as a content marketing coordinator, just kind of moving up the ranks of the marketing world, right? Getting my feet wet. It was there for about a year. Learned a lot, I can go into more detail later, but from there, went over to the B2B side, which is completely different than B2C. In my opinion, much harder, slower sales cycles and whatnot. But worked for a company called Doublehorn, which is a cloud brokerage company, moving in the tech space here. And basically they just sold cloud software to businesses that wanted to expand their cloud intake, if you will. And then that morphed into another company called Lifter Insights, which was a data analysis company. Basically, we sold data on the cloud, so very similar to Doublehorn. So that made sense. The two and two went together. And then finally, about 7 months ago, I was hired at a new company called Acadium. They are an ed tech company, which is really exciting, and we're actually doing pretty well despite this pandemic. It's really interesting, with the pandemic going on and universities struggling to keep their students and making sure they get that tuition money, right? But our basis here is basically to we have these online course networks, and basically as an institution you join a network and you can share courses with those other schools that are a part of that same network. So it allows institutions to keep their students and keep them on track. If, for example, there's a class that they don't offer, but their partner institution does, then they could transfer those credits really easily. In a nutshell, that's kind of what we do. But yeah, now I work as a demand gen manager. So Brian, I'm sure you'll go more into detail with this with my role, but basically working on getting leads, and moving along the pipeline. Once you obtain the lead, it's what happens with it. It's not just impressions and reach. It's more than just capturing leads. We want to do things with it. So results based marketing.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Thank you. There's an awesome synopsis of everything, and I want to dive into some of the things that you brought up as well. But that's good that you guys are doing well during this time, just because technology and the education space, you guys are kind of at the forefront of all of that with people being able to take classes online, and that's interesting. I didn't really realize that's what you guys do. So people can, if the school that they're going to doesn't offer that class, they go to you guys and you guys can kind of accredit them or pair them with the right opportunity.
Absolutely, yeah. So we're the software behind the online course sharing, right? So, for example, there's at least 8 different consortia is what they're called, and just as a dummy example, right? You'll have this West Coast consortia, and all these institutions that are on the West Coast, they buy into this consortia, and it's similar universities, right? So hey, school A is very similar to school B. It makes sense for us to kind of join together and just help one another out, right? And so if a student again is let's just say they fail a class in fall term, and that same class isn't offered until next fall, but they need that credit in order to graduate. Well, maybe in winter term, that student can take that class at the other university, get that credit, and then it goes towards their degree because the two universities are similar and they're in the same consortia.
Wow. That would have been really awesome to have at the time when I think we were taking Gateway at U of O. And if you didn't take it in the fall, then you had to wait the entire next year. So I don't know if they offer Gateway as an option through the consortium, but
again, too, a lot of the schools we deal with are smaller schools with smaller endowments. So fortunately for the bigger schools, they have lots of money and they can offer classes multiple terms. But yeah, to your point, Gateway was one of those classes where you needed to pass, or else you're gonna wait the whole next year. So yeah, similar concept.
Yeah, having to kind of map all that stuff out. I'm glad those days are a little bit behind me, but it's big business. So thinking back on a lot of this, maybe we can go take a trip down memory lane. Are you pretty happy with the journalism degree? Is that helping with what you're doing with marketing today?
Yeah, great question. So it's funny, I used to tell people I'm majoring in journalism. They're, the instant gut reaction is okay, cool, you're going to be a writer. You're going to write for newspapers. And, it's more than that, right? And I started my career as a writer, right? I think writing is so important, right? It's messaging. It's what's going to connect with your audience, what's going to connect with your reader. So it's the foundation of marketing, in my opinion, is writing. It's what is that one trigger that you're going to say that's going to just click in that person's brain, So yeah, I started my career, working as an intern for my city newspaper as a sports journalist, right? But definitely the journalism degree has helped, Again, I just can't emphasize how much more than just writing and being in a newspaper that you can do with a journalism degree. It's public relations, it's advertising, it's, marketing stems from it too, So back in school, I was a super J major, which kind of covered everything a little bit. But yeah, I would say the journalism thing really, really helped me just craft messaging. And I think that's just the foundation of marketing.
Totally. And then, with a lot of what you do with the lead gen stuff, are you, you're probably writing all the time. Are you creating funnels for some of the customers for part of their experience?
Absolutely. Yeah. And, again, I guess I didn't really talk about it a whole lot, but at Flow Sports and Double Horn, I was really big into digital advertising, that that creative copy. It's so crucial. Very keeping succinct messages, but getting that point across is just, it's a talent. It is something that's hard to come by. And, you see ads all the time on Facebook and LinkedIn, and, a lot of times you just scroll right past them, but like, what is that ad that's going to make a person stop and not scroll on their feed? It's crucial, but again, again, I can't emphasize, the writing is the foundation, and that's what starts, the ads, right? The advertising, the content. And then, if you have a, very creative piece of writing, that's how you're going to get your lead, right? You're going to get someone's attention. You're going to, try to get a conversion, right? Get someone to download something or submit a form. So
yeah, trying to get them to take action. Do you have any tips for people that are listening? Maybe like, what's one thing that you see a lot of people, you mentioned a lot of people just scroll past an ad. So I'm sure some of our listeners, they have put out advertisements that maybe didn't do as well as they would have liked. Do you have any tips on how to get people's attention through the writing aspect?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, a couple things. One, there's just so many free resources out there. I think a lot of people, they want to get into this business, and then they spend, a lot of money on classes they could find, as free resources on the web, open software, right? I'm a big believer in just the Google Suite, and the Google Ads and the Google Analytics. It's all there for you. Make a Google account and learn yourself, right? HubSpot too. I'm not trying to product push here, but HubSpot has free resources. They have a huge knowledge base. So definitely suggest, looking at HubSpot, looking into Google. Also too, SEO is huge, right? One of my favorite couple websites are moz.com. It's a great website for boosting your search engine optimization, and getting the words to resonate with Google, and getting to increase your search engine rankings, right? And then finally, SEMrush. Love SEMrush. Definitely have used that tool a lot. So I would say just getting familiar with as many different types of marketing softwares as possible, and then kind of just like using little bits and pieces. And another thing too I want to mention is, you have to know your business too, right? So like, are you a B2C or are you a B2B company, right? And I think a lot of people get caught up with, I'm let's just say example, I'm a B2B company, and we're spending all this money on Facebook. Well, think about it. Is your customer really going to be on Facebook? In my opinion, Facebook is more of a B2C platform, right? And so don't just keep pouring money into these advertising funnels if you're not really seeing the results. Take a step back, analyze the data, and make pivots here and there. Just because they exist doesn't mean you have to go out and spend all this money. You have to know your business and be true to your business.
Definitely. Yeah. That's why I was excited to bring you on the podcast, because you're my like analytics guy, the person that I think of when it comes to digesting this data. And I think the like more profound way I think I've heard of data is like trying to find the story in it, or trying to find like what's the bigger meaning, the message to take away from it. And you've done a lot of these. I'm so glad that you mentioned some of these free courses, like some of the Google Analytics courses and HubSpot courses for analytics. Do you have any kind of thoughts there? Like, what's a good thing that people should be measuring when they do these campaigns? What's something that they should really be like honing in on?
Yeah, no, that's a loaded question there. I'll do my best.
Yeah, there's all the different metrics, but what's the first thing that comes to mind for you?
Yeah, for sure. I think the problem with marketers, and I was definitely this marketer when I was in my young days, right? Especially with Flow Sports, is you create this content and you're just worried about the really high top of funnel metrics, like what's my reach, what's my awareness, what's my again, just reach and awareness. But like, conversions are huge, right? Like what's really going to drive the conversions? If you're getting a crap ton of reach and you're not driving conversions, there's a little bit of a disconnect there, right? And you have to analyze a lot of things. And I think something really important for marketers is A/B testing. Testing, not just having one ad, right? You want to have multiple ads and see what's working, and then, continue to track those analytics. And if you're seeing a difference, if test B is outperforming test A, well, then shut off test A, and then let's just pour money into test B, right? A/B testing is huge. It'll help your ROI and return on ad spend. I don't know if that was kind of where you're going with that.
Yeah. And I was kind of curious I haven't done, sometimes as a marketer, I don't always like practice a ton of what I preach sometimes, I don't practice it to a T. And so like when it comes to A/B testing, sometimes I'm just, because I'm a one-man band, it's like just doing the A and I don't have really the B. But how many variables do you change? Because there is like a science to this, keep the same image, but different copy, or same image, two different sets of copy. How varied do you want to make A and B?
Absolutely. You definitely, and the way I go about it is you want to make slight changes, right? Obviously, because if if version A is completely different than version B, then okay, what made version B outperform version A? Then you have all these different variables, right? And so a lot of things I look at is, if you're sending out emails, right? Subject line length, sometimes I'll use a shorter subject line versus a longer subject line. We know that email subject lines usually cut off between 41 to 50 characters. Landing pages, you can do A/B testing with landing pages, and HubSpot has a really cool feature where you can test out landing page A versus landing page B, and then they'll analyze and they'll say, hey, landing page A is outperforming landing page B. Let's go ahead and push out landing page A. So again, subject line, you can A/B test, again, the creativeness, right? So not just the copy, but the image, and like I mentioned, landing page. So I think it's a long process, and it can be really tedious, the whole A/B testing, and sometimes you don't have time in your hands, but I think it's a really important thing. And once you do find those discrepancies, then okay, now I know I don't need to waste my time doing it the old way. Now I know what my audience recognizes and responds to.
A big thank you to our sponsors over at songtub.com. That's right, song or music and a tub, like a bath, but more fun to say. Tub. Anyway, you can check out Songtub's website for any of your music needs. In fact, the song playing in the background right now is from Songtub. So why pick them over anyone else? Well, they curate the music. And I know the guys, so that means I know that they're selecting great music for your project. A lot of other companies will brag about how many songs they have, maybe 100,000, 200,000, maybe even 1 million. But honestly, I don't have time for that. I don't have the time to just sit down and go next, a song not so great, trying to figure out where the best music is. Songtub.com, great place to get your music, and now I'm excited to offer you the first month for free if you go to songtub.com/pro, P-R-O, and we have a promo code for you. Yes, that's right, my name, your host, Brian, B-R-Y-A-N, and that will give you your first month free to have access to a huge music library that you can use towards your next video project, podcast, or any of your general audio needs. Anyway, back to the show. You mentioned, HubSpot, and I know, just from our chats offline, like you've really dove deep in learning HubSpot and becoming a lot more knowledgeable about it. Do you think HubSpot's a pretty good solution for any size business, or do you have any, it can be a little overwhelming, I think, for some people jumping into it, but they have a lot of free resources. I know that I think you maybe can do email marketing through them, and you can even manage a CRM. Really, you can run a whole business from HubSpot, right?
Yeah, again, not trying to product push. I've used.
I think it's fine. I mean, HubSpot. They have a good reputation, so it's okay to give them kudos.
It's definitely what I'm most familiar with. I've used Pardot. Some people call it Pardo. In the past, they're owned by Salesforce. I've used Marketo for email marketing as well. But again, HubSpot, I think what makes them so great is their extensive knowledge base, right? It's an encyclopedia of articles where you can literally just Google search question and then just type in HubSpot, and then boom, like your answer just pops up there. So I think it's a very user-friendly CRM, and it depends on your company, right? And, currently, doing a huge CRM migration from one CRM to the other, it's a lot of work.
Hundreds of clients.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's a lot of data that we're moving over, and, making sure, properties match up and whatnot. But again, big believer in HubSpot. Like you said, there is a free version where they have a lot of free emails and tools. But if you do decide to be a premium subscriber, there's different tiers. There's a starter tier for the smaller businesses, and professional tier, and there's even an enterprise tier for the big corporations. So another cool little feature too with HubSpot is they have consulting hours. If you become a new customer with them, sign a contract, it's part of the service. They will sit down for 3 months. Depends on, I think, the tier you get, but they sit down with you and they walk through, okay, what can we tackle to help streamline your business?
Wow, that's very, very generous. But yeah, they have a good reputation, and thanks for kind of giving people a general understanding. We'll put the link to HubSpot in the show notes so people will be able to access it. And then you mentioned a few other, there's just so many software tools that are available to people, as a small business owner or some of the mid-sized businesses. Do you have any tips for, we've talked a little bit about, leads. Do you have any tips for like kind of the nurturing process, or how do you sift through leads that are, I think they sometimes call them qualified leads, someone that you really want versus someone that's just not really as good of a match?
Yeah, no, for sure. I guess, yeah. I was kind of talking about it a little earlier, but I think, again, a problem that marketers have is, they create this content and, it gets impressions, and then they're just done looking at the analytics. But as a true marketer, you need to look at from the time you start working on the content creation versus like the close. A marketer should know their sales pipeline just as good as a salesperson, in my opinion.
Can you say that again for everybody?
No, a marketer should know. They should know. Now you put me on the spot here. No, the marketer should know just as a sales pipeline, just as good as a salesperson. They need to know from the time the content is created till closed won. It's marketing and sales are synonymous. It's you need to be in touch with your sales team as much as possible. It depends on your business and the structure, right? If you have a BDR, a business development rep, I'm constantly in contact with her, just making sure things are working smoothly between the marketing and the sales team. But again, to answer your question is, yeah, you have the content creative side of marketing. They generate that stuff, and then when you get the lead conversions, and this is kind of what I'm, my role is, I'm looking at who our qualified leads are, and there's another cool thing in HubSpot called lead scoring. So a quick little demo on that is basically your users are taking interactions on the website, and they're gaining points. So based on certain pages they view, for example, if a user downloads a piece of, like, let's just say a case study, and then they go to a demo page, like, hey, request a demo. Well, hey, requesting a demo shows high buyer intent. Like, you're not going to just like request a demo if you're just some cold lead, right? Like, if you're really interested in the product, I want a demo. So boom, if they go to that demo page, give them like, a lot of points, or however your lead structure scoring is. They need a lot of points, to hire qualify them as a lead. And you basically, as a marketer, you set these parameters for qualifying leads. Let's just say your threshold is 60. So once a lead hits 60 points, then they become an MQL. All right, this person's serious. We need to put this person in touch with our business development rep. Let's move them along. Let's see what their interests are. Moving them along the pipeline, right? The marketing and sales pipeline, in my opinion, it's one pipeline. It's not marketing and sales, it's one pipeline. Getting qualified leads, moving them through the stages in the sales funnel.
Totally. No, the reason I had you repeat that is because I think a lot of people think of them separately. So I think you're really shedding some good light on, explaining that they're synonymous. They're like one in the other. Because it's a lot nicer to be able to tell the salesperson or the sales rep when they're going to be talking with the prospective client, like, hey, like we saw that they looked at this article, that they requested this demo, like they already have this score. You're able to provide all that information and make the process for your salespeople a lot easier, I would imagine, or at least they're a lot more informed. Like they know how interested this customer is and how maybe they can mentally prepare how much should they bring to the table when it comes to trying to, a lot of sales is convincing or kind of persuasion or explaining how your product's going to be of benefit. So they're really able to identify and do the research.
Absolutely. And again, the beautiful thing about HubSpot is like, there's so much market intelligence built into the platform where once you get that lead, they download that form, like lots of customer information or prospect information, I should say, gets generated. You get to know where they work and their company and their email address. And like, by that information, as a marketer, you need to do a task and be like, okay, is this person really qualified? Are they just kind of snooping around our website? Do I need to send them over to our BDR person? Cause it might be wasting their time. So it's that constant communication between sales and marketing.
Wow. What does BDR stand for again? I haven't worked in some of these big matrix organizations.
That's all good. Business development representative.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's an easy one. I sure got that. Good old BDR. Well, let's see. So do you have any other tools? You've done a good job of explaining, going through a lot of this outline that we kind of talked about, but do you have any other, like you kind of talked about HubSpot, but the current, like how to measure a lot of this, beyond, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I guess, that's the full circle, right? So like, I guess I didn't talk about that part, but, getting the lead and then moving through the pipeline and then closing and then measuring, right? Reports, understanding what pieces of content really moved them and made them more qualified lead, right? Again, I'm going to go this direction, but HubSpot has dashboards and reports that you can measure on a campaign basis, on a lot of things, right? And so I'm constantly in the weeds of, looking at our different types of personas and which personas act quicker than others. You have the buyers, you have the people that just kind of snoop around on your website. You have different buying tendencies with these different personas, right? And so I think it's really important to know what is the persona that's going to be, who's your main buyer, right? Who's the economic decision maker?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Who's going to be the guy that goes, okay, to his team, we need that product. You're going to have a couple other people that say, hey, that's really cool. And they'll bring it up to, their boss or whatever, if, they're interested in a product, and you need to find that economic buyer. And then this goes back to the first thing I said, that journalism background, right? That messaging, right? What needs to be said in order for the economic buyer to be like, we need that. We need to purchase that. So I think that's really important is finding your personas, their buying, tendencies, and then, report on that, right? And streamline your marketing capabilities.
Yeah. Are the personas pretty fluid? Like, are they subject to change from year to year, or do you kind of know who the people are? Like, are there like 3 or 4 categories of people and they just kind of keep reoccurring, or does that change with time?
At our company, they're pretty fluid. However, with the pandemic, that changes everything, right? Current world events will streamline and either speed up or slow down buying decisions. So I think our business is unique, and because we are in the online course sharing business, we're a huge need for a lot of universities, and a lot of the higher admin people are realizing like, hey, this company's got what we need. So it's pretty fluid, but again, depending on world events.
Yeah. Were you guys ready for this, for the pandemic? Were you like leveraged at a spot to be like, okay, I don't know if anyone was like ready, but like, were you guys able to make the adjustment to handle probably an influx of a whole lot more schools reaching out?
That's a great question. It's funny because I started at this company end of June, so we were in the middle of the pandemic, and to my understanding is it just kind of happened, and we pivoted, and I think all companies, if they can, you have to make adjustments. You see this from like the small mom and pop shops, in the services industry, trying to like pivot and how can I bring in revenue, and I think that's what my company did as well. Is we pivoted and we offered different products. To go along with the pandemic, right? So, real quickly, we have um, a higher ed recovery consortium. So basically, it's a consortium like I was talking about earlier it's specific on the pandemic and getting schools back on track and getting their students back on track. That was a result of the pandemic. So, you know, inventing new product lines and services to go along with the pandemic, help other people out.
Definitely. Yeah, that's awesome that you guys had the size and like the nimble ability to do that. Some other people I think struggle with that, but I'm happy to hear that you guys were able to do well. And yeah, that's probably really interesting jumping on board with a business mid pandemic, because you're seeing how they're like handling it, and obviously they're growing if they're able to bring people on board. So yeah, congrats to you for starting up, and I would imagine it's probably been a whirlwind since.
Oh, it's every day's a new day, and it's a lot of work, a lot of work to be done, but keeps you on your toes. It's a lot of fun. This is my third startup, if you will, and startup businesses is it's fun because like you got to be nimble, like it's not the day-to-day routine like you see with these big corporations, but it's quick turnaround and working sometimes long hours, but it's fun, it's meaningful too. At the end of the day, what we're doing is we're helping institutions, um, stay afloat. It's sad. It's very sad, but you're seeing some institutions having to close and just close up shop because they aren't getting the tuition money. But we're also helping out students too, and getting those students back on track with their degrees, and it's a lot of meaningful work, and it's a very unique business model. So I'm very blessed to be a part of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know. I'm like thinking about schools closing. It's like, how wild would it be to like you graduated from the school and like it doesn't exist anymore. So then
Yeah.
feel like it's just, but that's the sad reality of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I was gonna ask you, bring it back to like the analytics and kind of measurement. Like, do some of the metrics like does it get to a point sometimes when like metrics become like obsolete, like after like a year or two, or and so like that's on the long end, and then is there sometimes it's like too early to measure stuff, like there's just not enough data to really give yourself a thorough assessment of how well like a campaign did.
Yeah, I mean, another long-winded question, but no, it's a very
We got
good.
time.
We got time. No, it's a very good question. Again, it just all depends, right? Looking at things on a campaign level. You know, if you run your first campaign, it's getting the reports and the metrics. It's your baseline, right? Like, it tells you stuff, but it doesn't. There's nothing to compare it to, right? So, I definitely think having a good, healthy, number of campaigns, 5 to 10, and then like looking at a lot of different metrics. What was the campaign about? What part of the year was it about? Especially with us, we run campaigns on an academic year, so everything's different, and kind of comparing that year over year. So it really don't be stressed, marketers. Like sometimes it takes years to like you're looking back at old campaigns from the year previous. So to really see returns in a sense, it's it could take years. Seeing where you can improve, right? So a lot of campaigns are on a year-to-year basis, so you have to wait till that next year to compare okay, this is what we did last year. Where can we improve? You know, we spent this much amount of money. Like, how can we save? You know, so on the campaign level, yeah, it takes time.
Yeah, part of me is like, oh, that's awesome that like the thing that I did 2 or 3 years ago wasn't a complete waste. But then I'm also terrified because I have to maybe wait that long. But that's just kind of the nature of it. I know a lot of marketers, it's like kind of the age old challenge of like trying to meet these quarterly results versus like sometimes it takes a while just to get the data, and just takes a while to get like build brand recognition and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll say one more point too is like, you know, you launch this marketing campaign, and there needs to be a lead time of results, right? Of collecting results, right? And it depends on the campaign, but just because you finish the campaign, okay, sometimes it's a month of collecting data, sometimes it's 3 months, you know. And to your point, like, yeah, there's quarterly results that need to come out, but like sometimes by the time it's, time to report on those results, well, your campaign's still, generating leads and whatnot, and your new leads are in the middle of the funnel, right? The sales funnel. So again, like I said, it goes back from lead to close, right? And you sometimes you get those leads and they're still stuck in the funnel, and it takes time. It takes time.
Yeah. What's your favorite part about what you do, Trent?
That's my favorite part. I love this question. I guess this goes back to like what I just said, but working in the startup world, every day's different. Everything's different. Don't work in a cubicle. We're all working from home for the most part. I, I think I'm a kind of a creative person, so I've always liked generating the creative copy. It goes back to my writing roots, and being, trying to be unique and witty with advertising and brands and whatnot. So again, I like everything, Brian. I do, but the creative side is awesome. But I've also become more of a metrics guy as I've gotten older too. It's really cool to see ROI, and that can be measured in a lot of different ways. So I would say creative copy and ROI.
That's awesome. And that's cool that you're like, you work in a space where you can be flexible and can be creative with a lot of it. I know some industries, it becomes a little more challenging if you're working like in legal or financial, but that mold is slowly changing as well, where people are trying to be more creative in those spaces. But yeah, and then I can imagine working like a startup. From what I've heard is like the wins feel bigger because when they do happen, it's because of the small team that worked together to do something really big or bigger than themselves. Whereas you work at a big company and they're like, oh yeah, we just put all those resources and it got done because we have the human power to make it happen.
Absolutely. It's to be honest with you, when we get those big wins, it's an adrenaline rush. It really is. Like, to know that like you and your team were a part of that, right? And revenue starts with marketing, right? So wins and closed revenue, it's a marketing generated thing usually. So to know that you instigated it and you were the catalyst to move it forward, it's rewarding. So yeah, marketing is the foundation of revenue.
Yeah. Well, you guys heard it here. Marketing equals revenue. So invest money into your marketing. And this is the VidMark podcast. So do you have any ideas about kind of like, video marketing or media marketing? If not, that's okay. But just putting you on the spot, like, have you noticed, and I know your background's a little bit more in copy, but have you done maybe some copy around video? What are some of your thoughts?
Yeah, for sure. I guess I never really talked about it, but you know me, Brian. I dabbled with a little bit of video growing up. You have to with the journalism school, but I've definitely pivoted more towards the advertising marketing world. But yeah, no, I know, I think video is powerful. I think it's definitely it's a process and it takes time to generate the story. But again, in my opinion, video it's the best way to communicate a message. It's the best way to communicate a message. It's the most engaging material. And when it's done right, it's powerful. I think my company is, thinking about getting more in the video side of things, and we haven't dabbled with that either. So that's another, that's marketing potential that we haven't tapped into yet. But creating a story, everything's a story, right? So creating that FOMO, that fear of missing out, video is just powerful. Big fan of video.
Oh. A cactus knows how to survive. It can endure scorching heat, limited rainfall, and defends itself against critters daily. Your business is no different. To survive harsh conditions, it's important to develop deep roots using media content that'll continuously nourish and support your marketing efforts day after day. Tactus Media is here to help you determine a strategy and create media content. Together, let's map out the next sequence of videos, podcasts, and social media to help your business thrive. Work with Tactus Media. Media tactics that stick. Ouch! Visit tactusmedia.com to learn more. Yeah, for people that don't know, FOMO, where you're able to like watch someone having a good experience, whether that's a similar client. We talked about, personas. Maybe you're seeing the persona of, yourself in that video, and it makes you, it causes you to want to take action. And I always I enjoy the adding like kind of the music and the effects to make it kind of hype up the emotional element. Do you have a favorite part when it comes to like the video production process?
It's funny. Maybe you and I are the only people that really think this, but I love video editing. A lot of people don't like the editing aspect of it, but like I love it. Like it's the story behind it. It's the creative juices that you get going, right? And a lot of people find it really tedious, but I'm not a big fan of necessarily shooting video as much. I mean, it's fine, but like give me like a whole hour's worth of raw clips, and I'll create you my version of the best video you'll ever have, right? So,
Totally.
Yeah, I think video editing is fun, and then obviously seeing the final product. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, I know it's always like very detailed, very time consuming, but I love your approach where it's like, yeah, you just have all this footage, you're going to turn something really good out of all of that, or, the hope, have a strong editor, which you are. So I'm back in those, like we mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, those long nights at the journalism school, long nights, mornings, all the time, just working around the clock, trying to, create that final product, which is the really cool part about the video industry is, you have something to show for it. It doesn't just, disappear forever. It'll upload that sucker to YouTube, and it's going to be there for a long time. As long as YouTube doesn't change their algorithm or do whatever, which that's always changing. That's always in flux. The internet keeps developing. Do you have any ideas about? Oh, go for it.
I was gonna say that's part two of this episode. Is the algorithms changing and with social media and whatnot? But yeah.
I know. It's been crazy to see how, even in our lifetime, how like the internet has matured and just how things have changed over time. Are there any trends that you're maybe seeing? Not to have you pull out your crystal ball or anything, but
yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, it's been almost a year since I've run digital ads on social media because my role's changed, and I now have become like the CRM ad administrator, CRM manager, if you will. But starting to get back into the advertising business, and I went onto Facebook, and like they've completely changed their layout and just the amount of like tools and different audience features that are there. It's like, whoa, it's mind blowing. I lived in Facebook advertising when I was at Flow Sports. Like that was one of my main things in my role. But going back into the digital social media, that's like, wow, like this is always
yeah, it's like a real marketplace now. Well, not real, but like it has all that functionality, and it feels like a digital, if you would have told me, 20 years ago, this is what an online marketplace looks like, and you're like, okay, yeah, now you can really see it. So just wild how much things are always in flux, and we'll see by 2030 what where eventual reality we've talked about on this podcast in the past. And video is growing, podcast is huge, but there's always going to be a place for writing and always going to be a place for like strong storytelling, which I'm glad we've talked about a bit on this podcast so far.
Yeah, again, not to be a broken record here, but writing and storytelling, it's the foundation, it's the building blocks of good marketing, and then you can't be a good video editor if you don't know how to tell good stories, right? And so
Your phone keeps going off. You must be, or the bell keeps going off every time you see it say something good. So it's like you're getting like kind of a little feedback reward loop there.
Pretty well over here. Sorry about that.
No worries. Are there any examples of people that are doing a lot of things that we've talked about well? Obviously your company, but are there other examples, even generically that you know of?
Any examples of companies doing well?
Yeah, doing a lot of this stuff well that you've seen.
Yeah, I think one thing that just comes up to my head right away is you're starting to see ads on TV. Maybe not just starting. This has been for the last couple months now, but you're starting to see ads that are like, obviously they were created during the pandemic, right? And like it's messaging about the pandemic, right? I think this was actually maybe 3 months ago or something, but I saw it was a Trident gum commercial or something like that, and it was really unique. They were like, there's such thing as mask breath, so why not have a Trident gum? It's true, right? Like, we wear these masks and it's for our health and our safety, but like they have a point, and that goes back to what I was saying about this whole like pandemic and being flexible with the times. Is like they found kind of a marketing opportunity there where like, hey, we can pitch our product because we know people are wearing their masks and breath might stink.
Yeah, you're sitting there breathing your own CO2 after a while, and it starts to. Yeah, that's interesting. And then they create a psychological association with the mask and the gum. So then you kind of put 2 and 2 together. But yeah, I think a lot of companies, they have to address it in some form, or like how are really, you think of Trident visually showing people using their product, what it looks like. So that way people have an understanding, because it's really remarkable how much it's thrown kind of a wrench in how people perceive the world, or how the world operates. So how, like, for example, with what you mentioned, like brands have to think about masks, and like, if you're a restaurant, like how are you affected by the mask? Like, how does the mask affect you? Or the other thing that you kind of jogged for me was, as a videographer, I see in a lot of these commercials too, is like now you're like, there's like a little part in the back of my head that's like, oh, are they 6 feet apart? Is this person wearing a mask? In any show that came out, 6 months, a year ago, they might be people like next to each other. And there's kind of like a red flag that now goes off in my head of like, those guys they're like close to each other and they don't have masks on. Like, how is that even possible? Do you feel that way too sometimes?
It's become the new reality, it's the new normal. I've definitely felt that, I don't want to like call anyone out here, but I've definitely seen that. And I've been like, interesting. I even know, again, too, not to go on a tangent here, but like, television shows are now referencing this pandemic and like sitcoms, and it's really interesting. So it's a interesting time we live in.
Yeah, I know. And that's like kind of the big part with all of this, is like adapting and continuing the change all the time. But this has really forced like a whole nother, catalyst of change. So for, for you guys, I have listed on here, like, what's a good customer for you guys, for your business? Do you want to talk about the ideal customer?
Yeah, again, it's finding the economic buyer. And that could be a bunch of different folks, but with my my ed tech business, we're looking for that higher up administrator for universities, presidents, provosts, chief academic officers, vice president of academic affairs. Those are the people with the buying power. And then, like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, there's definitely people that have influence on those folks. You know, they might not have the economic buying power, but they maybe are the ones that would use the product on a day-to-day basis, you know? So, you know, the advisors, the registrars, you know, VP of enrollments, those kind of folks.
Yeah. All right, listeners. So you heard it here. If you know somebody that matches one of those criteria, reach out to them and get your company on board with them. But I think overall you've given some good tips to people that aren't even in that industry, in those fields. You know, for small business owners, mid-sized business owners, you know, a lot of these tools are going to be helpful for people, and just kind of the general tips of the marketing world, which in a couple of years, you know, I think we've talked about some of the things that are tried and true. But I think that's also a thing, is like getting used to changes and adapting all the time.
Absolutely.
Trent, go for it.
Well, and just keeping updated on the whole marketing industry, right? reading the stories, listening to the podcasts. Another little plug here, but I'm a big Neil Patel fan. I mean, I've seen him live in person at South by Southwest 2 years ago, and he definitely was an influential factor on my marketing career. Really smart guy, and obviously really talented. So subscribe to his newsletter, and just picking up little tricks, you know, little tidbits that you can get to know and improve your skills.
Yeah, he's awesome. Yeah, I follow his YouTube channel. He actually produces like a handful of videos. I would say maybe like one every couple weeks, but they're very insightful, really helpful. And I was really bummed, you know, talking about South by Southwest. I almost came out to Austin, and I was going to come hang out with you this last spring. And that was the first domino, I felt like, of all the events ending was South by Southwest canceled, and then everything else for the rest of the year canceled. But we'll make it happen. Probably not this next year, but in a couple of years, I'd love to come out in South by Southwest and just get the full marketing experience, full Austin experience with you.
Absolutely. You're welcome anytime. Again, South by Southwest is a fun event. For those who don't know, read about it, check it out. A lot of talent, a lot of people with a lot of knowledge fly out here to ATX and for 2 weeks, and they share. So it's a really fun event. For
sure. All right, Trent. Well, anything I haven't asked you? Any like one tip that would revolutionize somebody's world they might not think about?
Hey, I'm just going to repeat what I've already said. 2 different things. Marketing equals revenue. Marketing is the catalyst for closed deals. And number 2, as a marketer, you need to know your sales pipeline from start to finish. You need to know your pipeline as good as your sales reps. That's all I got.
I love it. Trent, thank you for coming onto the podcast. I know it took a couple, you're a tough guy to pin down, Trent, but I'm appreciative that you came on here. I want to acknowledge you for all the hard work that you've put in. Like and part of that pinning down was you were going through a big transition in your life. So big congrats to you for, I don't know, seeing things through, for doing, everything that you do. And it's been really fun having you on the podcast, and I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate your knowledge and sharing your wisdom with the audience. And best of luck in the new year. Any fun plans for 2021?
Just hunker down, and hopefully things change and become back to normal. But I'm just gonna stick around and keep working hard. Again, thanks for the praise, by the way, but love my company, and I, again, hopefully this podcast and this video will be beneficial to any young marketers out there and folks that can hopefully pick up some new tools and tricks. And again, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or ask me any questions. I'm here to do my best and help you succeed.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you, Trent. Until next time. All right. Bye, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to VidMark, a place for all your video marketing needs. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite platform and tune in every Thursday morning on either iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and more. For a behind-the-scenes look and some bonus tips, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Until next time, good luck with your video marketing efforts, and remember, always hit the mark.